Welcome back to Vehicles TV, and in this video we're going to go over the history of the Mustang. Now it all starts with Lee Iacocca, Ford's vice president and general manager, who envisioned a sporty, youth-marketed automobile which was based on the tiny Falcon in the early 1960s. Ford debuted the 1965 Mustang at the World's Fair on April 17, 1964, to instant acclaim, having been developed in a record time on a shoestring budget. Ford expected to sell 100,000 Mustangs in the first year, but on the first day, 22,000 were sold. The Ford Mustang ushered in a new category of cars known as pony cars. So, the first generation Mustang. Although the first Mustang was marketed as a 1965 model, Ford made major production adjustments to cars constructed after August 1964, when Ford had already sold 120,000. Early Mustangs are known as 1964 12 models, whereas cars built after August are known as late 1965s. Now, the Mustang was offered in a convertible and in notchback body styles, with the fastback arriving in late 65. Buyers may customize their Mustang to be anything from an inexpensive runout to a weekend race car, thanks to a wealth of options. The total number of cars in 1965, including 1964 12 cars, was 681,000, about 7 times what Ford expected to sell. A 170 cubic inch straight 6 4.3 liter V8 and the frame 289 cubic inch V8 with up to 271 horsepower were part of the original engine lineup. The 6 cylinders increased to 200 cubic inches or 3.3 liters for late 1965, and the 260 was replaced by a 289 with a 2-barrel carburetor. The Ford Mustang surged into 1960 with only minimal alterations, and Ford built the millionth Mustang on March 1st, 1966. Now, in 1974 to 1978, we had the incredible shrinking Mustang II. Those who grumbled that the Mustang had become excessively fat would soon have their complaints answered. The Mustang Mach-2, a subcompact built on an extended Pinto platform and offered as a notchback or hatchback, was released in 1974. A 140 cubic inch or 2.3 liter 4-cylinder or a 171 cubic inch, which is 2.8 liters, V6 engine were available. Now, the Mustang Mach-2 was marketed as an upscale economy car, with the Gia model topping the lineup. The Mustang Mach-2 was introduced in the fall of 1973, just in time for the oil embargo, and the timing could not have been better. Sales soared to 386,000 in 1974, the Mustang Mach-2's greatest year on record. Now, the Mustang Mach-2 received overwhelmingly good reviews at the time, and it was named 1974 Car of the Year by Motor Trend. When oil finally became available again in 1974, Americans reverted to their classic massive automobiles. Because of this, Ford crammed in the 302, which is a 4.9 liter V8, which was classified as a 5.0, whatever, with a paltry 140 horsepower, and they developed a Cobra 2 and a King Cobra model that were attractive but not particularly quick. Now, for 1975 to 78, sales remained at about 200,000 per year. People were ready for a real Mustang again by the late 1970s, and Ford, well, they delivered. In 1979 to 1993, we had the Fox, or the Fox body. The new Mustang for 1979 was built on the Fox platform, which it shared with the Fairmont sedan. The new Mustang came with a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine in naturally aspirated and turbocharged versions, which had 88 and 132 horsepower respectively, a 2.8 liter V6, which was deleted later in the year, and a 3.3 liter straight 6, and a 4.9 liter V8 was still classified as a 5.0. For the 1980 and 1981 model years, Ford replaced the 4.9 with a 4.2 V8 just in time for the second oil crisis. For 1982, Ford ditched the troublesome turbo in favor of the triumphant comeback of the 4.9, which they called a 5.0. The bad news was that Ford was now producing cop cars that could reach speeds of 140 miles per hour. Real performance returned to the Mustang series as automakers mastered emissions tuning. For 1983, Ford introduced an updated 2.3-liter turbocharged engine as well as the first convertible Mustang in a decade, and a new 3.8-liter V6 to replace the aging straight six. This V8 produced 175 horsepower. The limited run Mustang SVO debuted in 1984 with a 175 horsepower 2.3-liter turbo engine, which later had 205 horsepower, and a reworked suspension with Coney adjustable shocks. The 210 horsepower 5-liter HO, which stood for high output engine, was introduced in 1985, and in 1986 it was replaced with a multi-port fuel injection system and 200 horsepower. Next, we have the Mustang Going Aero. When 1987 arrived, it offered a striking facelift with flush headlamps and a redesigned interior featuring Ford's Aero-themed appearance. The V6 engine was deleted, leaving 2 engines and 2 models: the economical Ford Mustang LX and the flashy V8-powered Ford Mustang GT, complete with lower body side skirts and louvered taillights. While most LX cars had the 2.3-liter engine with 88 horsepower, Ford produced a stealthy LX 5.0 that matched the V8's 225 horsepower, or 205 horsepower after 1988. With the LX's benign looks, it possessed a performance advantage over the GT without the added 200 pounds of body covering. After 1989, sales began to fall, and with a new Mustang on the horizon, revisions were minimal. The SVT Cobra with a highly modified 235 horsepower V8, Tokiko shocks and struts, and less aggressive appearance than the GT was Ford's farewell gift in 1993. The air conditioning, audio, backseat, acoustic insulation, and power accessories were removed from the race-ready Cobra R, which was replaced with chassis bracing, eye-box springs, and adjustable Coney dampers. Less than 5,000 SVT Cobras were made by Ford. Mustang returns to its roots 1994 to 2004. Ford polled Mustang fans and found that they wanted more recognizable Mustang cues, so the jelly bean shape of the 1994 Mustang was augmented by first-gen style references and plenty of prancing horses. The cabin had a stylized version of the original Mustang's twin-cowl dashboard, which added to the resemblance. The Fox platform was reintroduced and enlarged under the skin of the new Mustang. The suspension was modified for a softer ride with comparable handling, but critics bemoaned the car's less aggressive understeering. The 215 horsepower 4.9-liter V8 was back, and the new basic engine was a powerful 3.8-liter V6. Not such a bad engine for the base model. Ford replaced the 4.9-liter overhead cam V8 with the modular 4.6-liter overhead cam V8 in 1996, and this engine produced a similar power to the 4.9, although it was criticized for lacking low-end torque. A more powerful limited-run SVT Cobra was still available though. The Mustang was facelifted in 1999 with Ford's New Edge stylistic style. The V6 gained 190 horsepower while the V8 gained 260. The first Mustang with independent rear suspension was the 1999 SVT Cobra, which was actually a large stride for the handling of this car. The Camaro was discontinued in 2002, leaving the Mustang as the only car in its class to dominate. Mustang goes retro 2005 to 2014. The 2005 Mustang came with a squared-off design that paid respect to its original Mustang. Ford had finally abandoned the 25-plus-year-old Fox body chassis. However, the new Mustang kept the live rear axle to save money, a decision that the automotive press slammed them for. The 4.0 liter V6 in the standard V6 Mustang produced 210 horsepower though, while the 4.6 liter V8 produced 300. The response from customers was so favorable that GM launched their own campaign to revive the Camaro, while Chrysler revived the Dodge Challenger, all because of this Mustang's success. In 2010, the 5th generation Mustang received a facelift just in time to welcome the new Camaro. Sequential taillights were one of the aesthetic highlights, albeit they were only available on the 1964 Thunderbird, 1967 Mercury Cougar, and 1968 Shelby Mustangs. The year 2011 saw the introduction of two new engines, a 3.7 liter V6 with 305 horsepower and a new 5.0 liter V8 with 412 horsepower. The 2012 Boss 302 increased the horsepower to 444, and the Laguna Seca variant was a true racing car. And now finally we move on to the modern Mustang 2015 to today. The latest Mustang was unveiled in December 2013 as a 2015 model commemorating the Mustang's 50th anniversary. The 300 horsepower V6 and 435 horsepower V8 were joined by a new 310 horsepower 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine as a standard equipment. This design was updated for 2018 and the V6 was eliminated. Ford introduced a new 4-door electric crossover called the 2020 Mustang Mach-E in 2019. For the first round of the Shelby Mustangs, Ford partnered with Carroll Shelby to produce a high-performance Mustang from the beginning, bringing new Mustangs to Shelby American for modification. The 1965 to 1966 Shelby GT350 featured a 306 horsepower 289 engine, as well as upgraded suspension and brakes. There was a race-ready GT350R version and a unique 1966 GT350H version for Hertz rental cars. Round 2 of the Shelby Mustangs was the 2006 Shelby GT-H, a 325 horsepower variant designed specifically for Hertz rent-a-car, which began the re-association of Shelby and the Mustang. The real deal was the 2007 Shelby GT500, which featured a 5.4 liter V8 supercharged to 500 horsepower. The Shelby GT, a civilian version of the GT-H with a manual transmission, was also marketed by Ford. And in 2010, Ford upgraded the Mustang, and the 2010 Shelby GT500 got 40 horsepower. Knowing that a track-ready Camaro was on the road, Ford opted for an aluminum engine block for the 2011 GT500, which reduced the nose weight by 102 pounds, and that improved handling. The Shelby GTS, a package of cosmetic and brake upgrades for the V6 and V8 cars, was also unveiled. The GT500's horsepower output increased to 663 for 2013, which gave it a reported top speed of 200 miles per hour. The new 2015 Mustang ushered in a new generation of Shelby automobiles. The factory-built GT350 now had a naturally aspirated 5.2 liter V8 with 526 horsepower and a race-ready GT350R variant. For 2019, the 350 received tweaks and improvements. Ford introduced the new GT500, the most powerful Mustang yet, in 2020 with a supercharged 5.2 liter V8, which produced an incredible 760 horsepower. This car received numerous awards, including a spot on the list of 2020 Automobile All-Stars. Which Mustang would you choose, the classic or the modern one? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.